Perhaps no other comic book character has had so many origin stories or alterations than the Phantom Stranger. He premiered as a mysterious do-gooder in 1952 in issue number 1 of The Phantom Stranger, thwarting crimes involving trickery or deceit, often with a mystical or magical slant. His origin story was never explained. He appeared and then vanished, as if he were supernatural himself. He would endure retcons and reboots throughout the years, until 2012, when he is seemingly given the identity of Judas Iscariot, the apostle who betrayed Jesus Christ, leading to the crucifixion. Although in that issue, he is never given that specific name. Always mysterious and always tormented, let's take a look back at the Phantom Stranger's first ever appearance and his final origin story in this week's installment of Welcome to the Comicverse. But before we do, we'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, comment, and share this video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. Thank you. The premiere issue of The Phantom Stranger was published in September of 1952. The cover asking all of us, out of the swirling mists of nowhere looms a mysterious figure to shield the innocent from the dark forces of evil, and then to disappear again into the void. Who is the Phantom Stranger? Our first story begins with a recanting of the Salem witch trials, a mass hysteria that took the lives of 32 people baselessly accused of being witches. Now, some 250 years later, a descendant of one of the men tasked with hunting down those witches is haunted by two spectral figures seeking vengeance for the past, and out of nowhere appears the Phantom Stranger, determined to challenge these supernatural beings in the story titled The Haunters from Beyond. Perez is bewildered and terrified. She has a secret and confides in the one person she trusts, her doctor, who does not believe her and tells her to get some rest and get rid of these silly notions in her head. Anne, distraught that she is not believed, runs out of the office and wanders the streets thinking either these things were there and she is doomed, or they were not and she is crazy. Either way, she is lost. She finds her way to a bridge overlooking the river. Feeling alone in this world, she decides to take the ultimate measure and climbs the stairs to the edge. But before she can jump, a gloved hand reaches out and grabs her arm, and a voice tells her that no matter what is troubling her, this will solve nothing. She wonders how this person made it to her so quickly. The figure tells her that he's just a stranger and he's there to help. He asks her what's wrong, but Anne hesitates. How could this man believe her when her own doctor did not? Still, she tells her story. She is Anne Perez, descended from Samuel Perez of Old Salem, who started the persecution of accused witches in 1692. She works as a secretary and is alone in the city. Yesterday, a book arrived in the mail, and that night, when she opened it, a green mist formed and she felt faint and dizzy. When the mist cleared, her senses returned. However, in front of her were two figures, a man and a woman. The man spoke first. He declared them spirits of two of the accused witches who died because of Anne's ancestor, and they were there for recompense at her hands. The man identified himself as George Burroughs and his companion as Martha Carrier, leaders of the witches' cult. They were hanged on Gallows Hill, but their souls cannot rest until Anne should redeem them. Martha tells Anne that she must die and be cursed, and that is their demand, that Anne dies for their redemption. After that, the green mist returned, and under its cover, the two ghostly figures vanished. Anne finishes telling her tale, wondering if she is sick or in real danger, mad or sane. Regardless, she is living in horror. The stranger tells her to have courage. He will take her home, and maybe there's a simpler explanation to all of this. As they approach Anne's cottage, where she lives alone, thunder, lightning, and rain begin. Anne sees it as an omen of things to come. The stranger sees it as a sign to get inside where it's more comfortable. Besides, he wants to see this mysterious witchcraft book. And when inside, the stranger opens the book, a history of the Salem witch trials and witchcraft from that era. Anne alerts him to the green mist rising again. A moment later, the mist clears. George and Martha reappear. They scold Anne for telling her secret to an interloper. Now he is cursed too, and they begin to deliver a command to the stranger when the stranger interrupts them. He tells them to command someone who will not disobey, and wonders if a witch's ghost can fight. He throws a solid left jab to George and strikes his jaw. The ghost is solid enough to take a punch. Then, the mist consumes the room, dissipates in minutes, leaving Anne and the stranger alone again. George and Martha have disappeared. Anne is upset. Now she has brought her curse on another. However, the stranger tells her that witchcraft is outmoded. As well, he has some evidence. Hair samples that he tucks away in an envelope. Anne points out George's muddy footprints. It was no delusion in her mind. They are real. The stranger wonders, what kind of ghost tracks mud into the house? The stranger sees that the mud matches the soil from just outside Anne's house. And the mud is not from the two of them either. He collects another sample. Then he turns to Anne and tells her, to break this ghostly affair wide open, you must die. Anne is shocked. The stranger tells her, don't be alarmed. She is merely going to play dead. Lie on the couch and do not move until he tells her to. The stranger then pulls an odd weapon from his coat, a conjure flash, which he uses to heat the curtains to the point of causing a loud explosion of fabric. Meanwhile, outside, Anne's cousin hears the bang. It must be a gunshot. Anne must have killed herself. He and his female companion go inside. They see Anne lying on the couch, apparently dead. They ask the stranger if she is deceased. The stranger wonders how the mourners got here so soon. The man introduces himself as Bryce Perez, Anne's cousin, and his fiancée, Miss Rita Westcott. They heard of Anne's recent troubles and were rushing there as soon as possible. Apparently, too late. The stranger questions them. How could they know anything if Anne only told her doctor? Bryce tells him that he talked to the doctor. Besides, Bryce wanted to know exactly who this mysterious man was. Maybe he had something to do with Anne's death. The man answers, call me the Phantom Stranger. Most everyone else does. Bryce threatens to call the police. The Phantom Stranger points to the phone and encourages him to do so. After all, the police might be quite interested in Bryce and his connection to all of this too. Then the Phantom Stranger points out that Bryce failed to wipe off the beard glue from his chin, the glue that held the same hairs he now produced from his envelope, from the fake beard that Bryce wore when he was George Burroughs. The Phantom Stranger accuses Bryce of plotting Anne's murder. Bryce tells the stranger that he knows too much and he talks too much. He then pulls a gun from his coat. Bryce is quick on the draw, but the Phantom Stranger's reflexes are faster, and Bryce misses. The stranger tosses him with a judo throw. Meanwhile, Rita grabs the witchcraft book and opens it up. There is still one pellet of green gas left, enough to put the stranger to sleep. But the stranger sees this and grabs Rita's hand, crushing the pellet in her face. She succumbs to unconsciousness. The Phantom Stranger picks up the book and now understands how the pellets broke when they fell from the book every time Anne opened it. As he places it back on the bureau, Bryce tries to come behind the stranger with a table lamp, but his reflection in the mirror gives him away. The stranger catches him and delivers a knee-buckling blow to the stomach. He demands that Bryce confess, and Bryce does just that. Bryce tells him that Anne unknowingly inherited the Perez family fortune from her great-uncle a few weeks ago. If she died, then it would come to him. After this admission, the Phantom Stranger asks Anne to get up. She can now call the police. Bryce is mortified. She's still alive. Afterward, when the police are finished, Anne thanks the Phantom Stranger. She asks if she will ever see him again, to which he replies, only if you need me. Goodbye and good luck. With that, he himself vanishes, and Anne is left wondering exactly who he is. Our next story in this premiere issue involves a plane crash. Everyone on board deceased, but a trio of passengers, dead or not, will stop at nothing to complete their mission in the tale, When Dead Men Walk. A giant Continental Stratocaster revs its engines on the airstrip as the stewardess checks in her passengers. One of them, John Martin of New York City, on his way to San Francisco to marry his sweetheart, Margot Phillips. Also on board, Bart Benson, ace rodeo star, flying west to buy a very special Bronco. 2 seats away, hate gleaming in his eyes, is Carson Rand. His thoughts are solely on a man named Edgar, who Carson would kill if he does not sign the papers he demands. All 3 are close friends and sitting near each other. They decide to play cards as the flight proceeds. The 3 men are photographed. It is the 1000th flight for pilot Jim Thompson, and the papers want to make it a story. Moments later, after hours of sunny skies, the clouds cover the Rocky Mountains. Clouds which do not allow pilot Jim Thompson to see the sheer cliff wall in time. He banks the airplane, but it still collides along the right wing, sending it down in flames in a terrible crash. 2 nights later, in a ranch house near Las Vegas, Edgar Jones sleeps a restless sleep. He awakens at the sound of his name being howled by the spirit of Carson Rand. He has come for the blackmail papers. Edgar cannot believe it. Carson Rand is dead. He read about it in the papers. He died in an airplane crash. Still, the ghostly figure enters the room. He tells Edgar that he did die, but he cannot rest until he destroys these papers. Edgar is defiant. He will not let this spirit have those documents. He races to the wall safe, knowing full well that a ghost cannot crack a safe. But the ghost of Carson Rand wanted just that, to know the locations of the papers. He then orders Edgar to step aside. As the ghost reaches out to turn the safe dial, a gloved hand appears and blocks him. A new voice wonders why a ghost would enter a room by opening a door. The ghost demands the stranger step aside. The stranger instead swipes at the ghost, who recoils with a sharp, terrified cry and flees the room, leaving Edgar and the phantom stranger, who tells Edgar that it's okay, because it's not yet time to stop Carson Rand. The phantom stranger then disappears himself, leaving Edgar once again all alone. The following night, at a ranch in the Mesa Verde portion of Colorado, the great stallion, Roughneck, the same horse Bart Benson was on his way to buy, lolls around in his pen. The ranch hands are terrified. On the fence, in ghostly glowing letters, a message. Roughneck is mine. I will ride him as I promised. Signed, Bart Benson. Suddenly, as if an invisible rider had mounted Roughneck, the horse begins to sunfish, to buck, to jump, to ride against the fence rails, as if tossing an invisible man from his back. Then, as suddenly as it started, Roughneck stops. Maybe it was exhaustion. However, as the horse relaxes, next to him appears the phantom stranger. He explains to the ranch hands, no invisible ghost rider broke this horse. It was done as cleverly as the Native Americans had back years ago. Bart Benson taught this horse to act like that at the sound of an inaudible whistle that human ears could not detect. And the lettering? A zinc compound that glows in the moonlight. A ghostly warning with no ghost at all. The next night, in the foggy streets of San Francisco, Margot Phillips hurries along the empty road. From the alley, a glowing figure calls out her name. Margot, darling. Margot turns to see the image of John Martin, her dead fiancé. She is in disbelief. He tells Margot not to be afraid. Yes, he is dead, but he has come back from beyond the grave for her. Margot, frozen in fear, shrinks as John's gloved hand reaches out as he tells her that she can only enter the other world after she dies. Then, out of the mist and fog, the phantom stranger appears and grabs the ghost. He tells Margot to take a closer look, and Margot sees that this is not John Martin, her fiancé, but Matt Wright, a cashier in the nightclub where she sings. The phantom stranger explains that Matt wanted to kill Margot because Margot discovered that Matt was stealing from the register. And when Matt read of the wreck that killed her fiancé, he came up with this ingenious plan to get away with murder. Matt learned about Bart's mission to get Roughneck and Carson Rand's need to get important documents from Edgar Jones from a stolen letter John Martin wrote to Margot. He impersonated all 3 of them as ghosts to throw the police off his own trail. But all of that is over now. The police will book Matt Wright for attempted murder. Afterwards, when the police had come and gone, Margot tells the phantom stranger that she has seen him before. She then takes out the photograph of John, Bart, and Carson playing cards on the plane. And there he was, standing behind the 3 friends. Then Margot wonders, how did the phantom stranger survive? As she asks that question, the fog of San Francisco engulfs her, and she sees that the phantom stranger is gone, leaving her once again alone in the world. Our third story sees 3 men trapped within the house of a sorcerer. For one of them to live, 2 of them must die, in the tale titled The House of Strange Secrets. Nighttime, along a winding road snaking through a dark woods, fog so thick it appears to drip from the tree limbs. The inky blackness broken by 2 headlights struggling to break through the mist. The driver feels lost. This can't be the road. He must have taken a wrong turn. Then, a light appears in the distance. It's a house. Maybe he can stop and ask for directions, and luckily, there seems to be someone at home. As our driver enters, he begs pardon of the owner and introduces himself as Neil Hunter and begins to explain his situation. He's lost, but before he can finish, the house's owner, who is calmly sitting and smoking a cigarette, tells Mr. Hunter to come in and that he has been expecting him. Neil apologizes for intruding and asks about his location, but the older gentleman simply tells him that he is a guest in his house now, to come in and close the door. At that moment, a mysterious voice breaks in and asks, "Mr. Hunter, what do you think of a host who greets his guest with a knife behind his back?" And we see that the older man does have a dagger clenched behind his back, as he now questions where this new presence came from. He announces that he has set this scene too carefully to have it ruined now as he raises the dagger in the air. The new voice belongs to the phantom stranger, who warns Neil to look out. As the dagger flies through the air, the phantom stranger leaps to take Neil out of its path. He tells Neil that he was lured here to meet his death. As the 2 get to their feet, the lights go out. The phantom stranger explains that he noticed the signs along the highway were tampered with in an effort to trick cars to this location. Neil wonders what happened to the knife-wielding old man. He has seemingly vanished. Amazingly, everything in the house appeared to be new and polished, but now, with the lights out, the house is decrepit, the furniture covered in spider webs. The phantom stranger explains that the house belonged to Robert, a famous magician who died 50 years ago. The house has stood empty since that day. Or has it? Neil picks up a lit candle. He begins to cough. The stranger tells him to douse it. As Neil blows it out, he faints. The candle was doctored, releasing stupefying vapors, and now the stranger is left in the dark, alone. A moment later, the house illuminates. The old man reappears. The phantom stranger comments that it's just another quick change illusion, like Robert used to perform on stage. The old man tells the stranger that stage magic is unnecessary. Robert was a true magician who mastered strange secrets from his book of black arts. Now, he has assumed the role of the sorcerer's apprentice after buying the house and Robert's entire library. The stranger remarks that the old man has also studied the art of murder, too. Laughing in the eerie glow, the sorcerer explains that he found the one spell even Robert dared not to cast for himself. It will grant him eternal life, wealth, and power, but it must be first sealed with the death of a victim. And now, after being deprived of his prize for far too long, he will now have 2 victims, giving him double the power. The stranger is surprised as the sorcerer attacks, asking the spirits to help him retrieve his dagger to finish the job. But the stranger is able to land a right cross to the sorcerer's jaw. Recovering quickly, the sorcerer activates a button on the wall, causing the walls to revolve, revealing the secret to his trickery. On one side, clean and shiny decorations. The other, dilapidated and aged. More importantly, the walls now separate the stranger from the sorcerer and his intended victim, Neil Hunter, who is still passed out. The stranger searches for another method to move the walls. Meanwhile, on the other side, as Neil comes to, he is confronted by the sorcerer wielding a sword. He calls the old man mad and asks why. Why is he trying to kill him? The sorcerer replies, a madman needs no reason to kill, but he does have the best reason: immortality. But before the sorcerer can strike, waves of heat emanate from the phantom stranger's conjure flash as it burns a hole through the false wall. He tells the sorcerer that immortality cannot be won so easily. For the sorcerer, he is determined to end this phantom stranger. Blindly rushing forward, the sorcerer swipes with his blade, but the stranger is too quick and it almost appears as if the blade passes through him like a ghost. And then the stranger realizes they are in the room filled with electrical wiring, the source that powers the sorcerer's illusions. For the sorcerer, if he could only back the stranger into the live wires. He raises his sword once more, confident that he has the upper hand. The sorcerer's sword does not hit its intended target. Instead, it finds the live wires, electrocuting and killing him. Neil and the stranger exit the house. The fog is lifted. The moon is full. The way back to the highway will be easy. Neil asks the stranger to come with him, but as he turns to face him, the stranger is no longer there. He came out of nowhere and disappeared back into nowhere, just like a phantom. In 1987, issue 10 of Secret Origins presented readers with 4 plausible origins for the Phantom Stranger, none of which were pointed to as the correct one. However, in November 2012, the New 52 gave us a new and definitive origin story for our hero, one that would touch upon one of the greatest treacheries and sins ever committed in the history of mankind. Here we present that story as told in issue 0 of volume 4 of The Phantom Stranger. I wanted to die. I craved death and its sweet release, so I tied a rope around my neck and hung myself, thinking it would be the answer to my shame. Instead, it only made things worse. I couldn't stand being judged by others, therefore I judged myself and found myself guilty, but I couldn't escape my crime, not even in death. I never considered myself an evil man, but I committed a mortal sin and was prepared to spend an eternity in hell. Little did I know this new fate would be something far, far worse. In my moment of despair, a mystical gate opened, golden, blinding light, and a booming voice commanding me to stand and enter. I was taken to a chamber filled with all the opulence expected of the afterlife, but none of the majesty. I thought if this was hell, then the scriptures were wrong. But then again, I've thought them wrong on a number of things. This wasn't hell. This was someplace else. I later learned I'd been brought before the Council of Wizards, a powerful and officious gathering of magics and mages assembled to pass sentence against those deemed guilty of upsetting the cosmic order of the world. They believed in judgment by committee, a simple way to claim no personal responsibility for the horrific punishments they imposed. As to who the council was and what happened to them, that remains a mystery to this day. It was said that they only judged the greatest of sinners. I should have been honored. Instead, I was afraid. If it was determined suicide wasn't a fit punishment for my crime, I could only imagine what horrors awaited me. 2 others stood trial beside me. At that moment, I did not care who they were or what they did. That was a mistake, one that haunts me to this day. Their sins, like mine, continue to affect the course of the world. I prepared to accept my sentence. I was told I was not worthy to stand before them. I was ordered to kneel. But one of my fellow prisoners did not want to accept this. He told the wizards that he would not bow for anyone. He should have realized, like I did, that we had no choice. He was forced to concede. The guards were then ordered away. I watched as they faded and wished I could disappear as well. I knew the moment of judgment was at hand. The council leader labeled us the 3 greatest transgressors mankind has ever known. We were given the title, the Trinity of Sin. Thinking back, I find it almost amusing that for all of my moral sins, they chose avarice as the one for which I'd be judged. My greatest sin was the betrayal of my closest friend. For that, I gave myself a cruel and shameful death. I could not go through that pain again. I begged the wizards, please, all of you, forgive me as he would. I pleaded for mercy, for what little good it would do. The council declared me beyond forgiveness. My greed has forever darkened the world. With those words, the council leader threw silver coins at me. The coins, a reminder of my greed and my greater sin. They encircled my neck, chained together, forever on my body for me to carry through eternity. The pain of the coins seared my eyes closed, and the wizards in the world disappeared, as did any and all hope for my own eternal peace, and I fell into a void. When I awoke, I felt the ground beneath me. Something was different about it. As I tried to stand, I wondered where I was. Then I realized that it was not the ground that was different, but me. I was alive again. Impossible, but still true. I was standing in the field of blood, the place marked by the shame of my existence, a place I bought with my coins of betrayal, the same coins now bound to my neck. I wondered if this was my punishment. I spoke to the sky, hoping the wizards would hear me. I told them I admitted my guilt. Why did you bring me back here? Why don't you just let me die? And I got an answer. the same booming voice. Sinner, your ultimate fate awaits. The robe. Put it on. I'm still unsure if the voice was the wizard's or some greater force, and I never dared to ask since my question would never be answered. The robe hung from a tree. My heart sank into despair. I did what I was told. The robe, made of humble fabric. Why was it so special? Then I remembered. It was his robe, stolen away on the day he died. Once I wore it, I knew I would be forever changed. The local shepherds approached and asked me, "Who are you? Why do you look that way?" I answered them, "It is nothing, for I am just a stranger." The voice returned, "Your penance is to walk this land until the debt for your sins is paid, and on that day you will serve the greater good." So I started to wander, and I've been wandering ever since. Times have changed, and I changed with them. No longer speaking Aramaic, altering my clothes to something less conspicuous, not that it mattered. I was numb to the world. So much time had passed. Hope eroded to indifference. I was resigned to this existence. I should have known better. The voice, after all this time, returned. At last, it told me, "There is a man. Seek him out. Do what needs to be done. It is time to make amends." I wondered if this man was my road to salvation, and if so, how? The answer, it seemed, lay ahead, and instinctively I knew where to go. A police station in the heart of Gotham City. The man, a detective, awaited me inside, and I wondered why he was so special. Why did I need to find Jim Corrigan? When I found him, he was yelling angrily at his captain. Something about a woman named Gwen being missing for 24 hours and that they should be on the streets looking for her. The captain begs Jim to calm down, that his famous temper is going to get him into trouble. Detective Corrigan responded that he is calm and that it must be McLaren and his men who took Gwen. Revenge for the death of his brother during a botched arrest. The captain demands that Corrigan listen, because it could mean his badge, that Corrigan's anger could get her killed. Corrigan admits that all his life he's been filled with rage, that he thought the police force would help him find focus and discipline, but it didn't. Only Gwen did, only her presence. He had to be on the street looking for her. Captain Hopkins denies Jim his request, and in that moment, Detective Jim Corrigan decides he needs not be a detective anymore. He tosses his badge and storms out, and I watch as Captain Hopkins doubles the officers on the search for Gwen because if Corrigan gets there first, God have mercy on their souls. With that, I exit to find Corrigan, and I find him in an alleyway beating a man, a snitch, demanding information on the whereabouts of Gwen. The snitch begs Corrigan to stop, tells him that he's a cop, that he cannot do this. But Corrigan tells the snitch that he's no longer on the job, so there is nothing to stop him from beating the snitch senseless. It is then that I make my presence known. I tell Jim that this is an unnecessary display of violence. It won't solve your problems, and it won't help you find the woman you seek. I will. Corrigan asks me, "Who the hell are you?" as he lunges at me. I allow him to grab me and slam me against a brick wall. He tells me that I am now a person of interest. He puts a gun to my head, tells me that he has no time to waste, and does not mind bloodying his hands. He cocks the hammer back and demands that I tell him what I know to stop him from pulling the trigger. I tell Jim that I've been watching him, studying him, his behaviors, that his rage is a manifestation of pain and fear, that he has felt helpless his whole life. Defiantly, Jim asks me, "Do I look helpless to you?" I tell him his actions have no substance as I walk through him like a ghost. I have Jim Corrigan's attention now. In the reflection of a puddle, I show Jim one of my gifts, one of my curses. I can glimpse the future and tie it to the present. Jim demands to know what kind of trick I'm playing. I tell him I'm not one for parlor tricks. I tell Jim that his fiancée is alive and well, but if you ever want to see her again, we must act now, because I have been sent by forces beyond your understanding. Fate has put us together, and this path may lead to salvation for us both. In a torrent of wind and mysticism, I teleport us both to our destination. While the voice did set me on this course, truth be told, I had little interest in people or their problems at this point. But Jim did not need know that. We arrive at an abandoned warehouse. I have Jim pick the lock because, as I explained to him, some actions are meant for him only. Just as I knew to bring him here, I also knew he alone must open the door. And as we enter, Jim remarks that he would never have looked here. It's been empty for years. Jim then turns on me with furious anger. He decries that it is still empty, that Gwen is not there. He demands to know what game I'm playing. I tell him that I don't know. She should be here. Suddenly, from above, a voice and a light shine down on us. Corrigan, nice of you to show. Jim believes I've set him up. Machine gun fire showers Detective Jim Corrigan. He is hit multiple times. I cradle his body. No, this cannot be. This wasn't supposed to happen. As Jim Corrigan's life ends, the specter of his spirit reveals itself. Its first declaration: to blame me for everything. This new being lays at my feet all the fault for this tragedy, declares me once again a man of betrayal. I try to tell it that that's not who I am anymore. This spirit of Corrigan screams, liar, and announces that I am now a specter, and you will feel my wrath as it reaches out to end me. Then the voice arrives again and tells the specter, no, others will. With that, the specter disappears. And I beg for an answer. How? How could you let this happen? The only answer I get: one of the silver coins of my original sin drops from its chain. I see it now. Debt paid for services rendered. A toll on the road to redemption. I reach down, hold it in my open palm, and watch as it dissipates. This was supposed to be my chance to escape the past, but now it's my past that defines me. I know now what needs to be done, even though it cuts to the very core of my soul. Until I am called again, I have no choice but to watch and wait, apart from everyone, being nothing more than a stranger. Thus ends issue number 0 of The Phantom Stranger from 2012. I hope you enjoyed this look back at The Phantom Stranger, his first appearance, and his brand new and definitive origin story. If you want more comic book fun right away, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for a look back at the first ever appearance of Lex Luthor. You'll be glad you did. I thank you for watching. Remember, I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salute and a huevo.